everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Tamika. This is Library of Tomes, where I talk to you about all the bookish things going on in my life. Welcome back. I hope you're doing great. Today we're gonna go over my mid-month wrap-up. Let's hop on into it. I will not be going into depth on the manga, and I will be breaking this up as genres, books, you know how we do here. So the manga, we'll do that first because it's the smallest amount of things that I've read for the month. And it should be the largest because I'm doing the 30 and 30, but we've read 4 volumes of manga. So I'm going to share the titles with you and then I will go over the books in depth. So I read volumes 1 through 3 of Love and Focus. This is a completed work of 3 volumes. I liked this. I will talk about it more in my full manga log at the end of the month. And I also read the first volume of Blue Flag, which I also really liked. It was really cute. And I'll talk about full thoughts in my manga log. And yes, I know I'm very behind. I'm planning on catching up this week. We'll see if I do. I'm anticipating hopeful things. That's all I'm saying. Just trying to be hopeful at this rate. So the first book I want to talk about is Vampire Seduction. This was a novella. So this follows our hero who is on a trial to commit a crime and he's being framed. And this girl comes in, she's a law student, and she's like, they are not doing this case correctly. Like, this is not how this is supposed to go. And she like walks in and then there he is. That's her beloved and they're like fated to be mated together, fated mates. And she like, they have like this really strong scent and they're very attracted to one another. And she literally goes to him and like tries to take over the case and then is trying to like make sure that he's okay and he can get off the trial. It's really, really cute. It's really short. It was a novella. I enjoyed it a lot and I gave it a 4-star. Then I read Dark Prince by Michelle Hercules. This one is really fun. This is about Luca, and I want to say her name is Emily. I can't remember, but I really liked this one as well. So Luca is a vampire and he is cursed, and he needs to find someone to break the curse. And so what happens is if he drains that person dry, then he will be damned for all eternity and the curse will never be broken. But if he can stop himself from draining someone completely, because he is a vampire and this specific person has to be like of this one bloodline, then he will break that curse and he will stop like falling asleep and not waking up. So essentially what he's doing is he's going into like hibernation. So this girl who is our heroine ends up going to this club because her brother gets into some kind of trouble and she has to take Luca's necklace and he catches her. She is forced into a situation where she has to go to this school in disguise as a vampire. And she uses this like serum to like become a vampire, not become a vampire, but like take on the traits of a vampire. Like she appears to be like one, like she looks like she has fangs and everything, but she's still human. So it was really fun. Luca and our heroine are adorable and they definitely have like a dislike to love situation, and they have like not an instant connection, like an instant attraction, but a fairly quick, like they're very attracted to one another and they find a way to be around each other all the time. I really liked this. This was a really good vampire romance and I cannot wait to read the next book in the series. So then we have my DNF for the month and I got over 50% through this one, and that is Dirty Love by Kenya Wright. I've decided I will be not continuing this series, though I enjoyed Dirty Kisses. Dirty Love was not my favorite thing. It was just boring and slow and I was not invested or interested in anything going on. I felt like, honestly, there was too many POVs and just too much going on that I just didn't care about. I was getting super overwhelmed with the plot and I just couldn't keep up and I just didn't want to listen to it, and it put me almost in an audiobook slump, so I had to just DNF it and move on. Yeah, I didn't love that. And Izzy did finish the series, like finish the book, and she told me like what happened. And I would have been pissed if I would have finished it. So I'm just glad I DNF'd it and moved on from there. Then I finally finished Ringmaster by Brianna Hale. This is a slow burn romance that Brianna has just chef kiss crafted here. So we have Raya and Kale. They are very precious babies. Raya is only 17 when we meet her. and Kale is 32, I want to say. They have a very large age gap, but there's nothing happening between the two of them. There's an accidental kiss in before she turns 18, but before she turns 18, nothing happens. He waits specifically way past when she turns 18, or she might turn 18 before they do anything, but like they wait before anything happens, and he is denying his attraction to her. So essentially what happens is Raya runs away from her family, like from her dad, because he's very abusive, and Kale takes an immediate like protection to her and like wanting to keep her safe, and he lets her run away with him to the circus, and she becomes a part of the circus, and he's the ringmaster. And I absolutely adore this story. I love everything Brianna does. We're not shocked by this information. So yeah, I really loved this. I gave it a 4-star. There was something that happened at the end, and I will share that in just a second, that I didn't love about this story. So if you want to skip ahead because you think it might be a spoiler, go ahead, but this is a content warning in my opinion. Kale does not explain sex ed to Raya. Raya is not aware of how babies are made. Like, she knows that you get pregnant by having sex, but she's not fully aware of how it works. She thinks you have to try. Like, she thinks that you have to attempt to make a baby, and like you have to try, and it's hard to do. And she doesn't understand that like one time can get her pregnant, and he does not explain that to her. She's not on birth control. They're not using condoms. He is not pulling out. So she gets, you know, she's not really understanding what is happening, and I feel like Kale should have explained that to her. I felt like the reaction we got from her would have been just as good if that wouldn't have happened, and he would have said, hey, if I do this, you're going to get pregnant. We will have a baby. Because her reaction would have been exactly the same either way. So that was my big complaint. That's why I knocked a whole star off, but this was a really good one. Again, Brianna Hale has not disappointed me. I love her so good. I love this book, but that was my complaint, and I have to share that here because that is just a trope that I don't like. And that's just a personal thing as someone who never wants babies. So I don't know. Then we have The Knight's Baby by Sina. This is the second book in this series, and I gave this one a 3.5 star, I think. So I'm going to tell you this here. I think you could read this first book as a standalone and be done with it. The series is continuing a larger plot, and I'm very interested in this larger plot, but as a romance, you can read the first book and be completely content because they do end up with a HEA at the end of that book. There are things happening in this second book that continue a larger storyline, and it's very frustrating because we don't know when the third book is coming. There is no release date. There is nothing on, you know, like on Goodreads or Amazon or anything to tell us if there's even going to be another book. So I don't know if this series has been abandoned or what, but I'm pretty frustrated by that. I really enjoyed this, and I really want to continue the series, but there's just so many things left unanswered that just having this as the conclusion is really frustrating. So I'm giving it a 3.5. Like, if potentially there is release for another book, like there's a date come out, I would probably give this a 4-star because I know that I'm going to get my answers. But until I know if there's going to be a third book, I cannot give this a 4-star because there's so many things that I don't know what's going on and don't have answers for. So yeah, if you want this just for the romance, it will end at the first book. Just read the first one. You'll be completely fine to read it as a standalone. So then I read Blood Kiss by Kelly Arthur. This is a witch romance with a shifter. I read this one because I'm just in a really big paranormal mood, as you can tell from every single book that I've finished. So this is following Lizzie Grace, who's like opening a business in this town, and there's like this reservation, and they are just not for witches. They're just not into it. They don't like having them there, and they ran off the last witch. There is like a mystery going on. So some girl went missing, and then eventually you find out this girl was murdered, and Lizzie's being told to help from the mother of the person who's, you know, went missing and then murdered, but the sheriff in town is like, get out, like don't do this, like you're not doing this magic here because it's like forbidden. So yeah, it's a romance between her and the sheriff, and also solving this mystery. I definitely see things happening in the future of this in this series, but we did get a good conclusion, so you could read it as a standalone if you want, and I just really enjoyed it. They had a very cute HFN, so happily for now, instead of an HEA. So yeah, I really liked it. I really liked the way that they went with that. So I'm definitely intrigued to see what happens in the future books. It was really cute and really fun. So then I read Beauty and Darkness by Elizabeth Briggs, and here we go. Let's shock everyone. This is a fantasy romance. rival kingdoms, wizards, arranged marriage, and I gave it 5 stars. I loved this book so much. I'm calling it a popcorn read because the writing in this is just so consumable and the story was so consumable and it was just so good. I loved the rival aspect between the hero and our heroine. So this follows Wraith and Rose Rose is the second daughter to the king. So she is the not the heir, but she's known her entire life. Her purpose is to be married off to like gain political favor. The kingdom she's in and the other kingdom are at war and they want to end the war, and Wraith, who is our hero, comes over and he's like, yo king, let's end this war. He doesn't, I mean, it's not like that, but like that's essentially what happens. And he says, okay, you can take any one of my daughters as your wife. We'll end the war. That will be our, then we'll have that arrangement and it'll be an alliance between our kingdoms. And he looks at all the daughters and he's like, none of these are to my liking. So I guess we'll just take your kingdom and be done with it. And he said that wasn't part of the deal. And then Wraith's like, well, if one of them wants to step forward and volunteer to be my wife. And then Rose is like, obviously I have to do this. So she steps forward and she volunteers to be his wife. They have like a little rivalry type of thing, a little, they don't trust each other. It's not really hate to love. They just don't trust each other. And the relationship's really cute. He teaches her magic. It is adorable. Magic is like forbidden in her kingdom. And I just love this so fucking much. I could not tell you a negative thing about this. I just adored it. And I'm just as shocked as everyone else because I finished this book and I immediately was like voxing Izzy, like, ma'am, what is going on here? I'm reading a fantasy romance and enjoying it. Who am I? What's happening? I immediately checked out the next book. I cannot wait to see what happens with the rest of the sisters. It's so good. I loved it so much. So the last book for this mid-month is called The Dragon Shifter's Duty. This is the second book in the Shadow Agents series. Now this one is interesting. This is by Mandy M. Roth. So this is the Shadow Agents series. It's the second book, but you can read it as a standalone because I did. But this one follows Ezra, who is a dragon shifter, and I'm trying to figure out the girl's name because I can't remember. And I'm pretty sure our heroine's name is Holland. But what happens is Ezra gets this really strong urge to go to the specific place because there is like a house on fire, and he's getting a strong urge to go there. And there's this little girl there. She's about 5 years old and she is in the fire, and he like saves her, protects her, like goes and gets her, takes her out, and then takes her to the hospital. And from that moment after he meets her, his sex drive is completely gone. Like completely, absolutely gone. He doesn't think anything of it. And then he meets her again 15 years later when she's like 21. And he has an immediate connection, immediate need to like mate her, and he immediately has this like need of like, that's mine, like she is mine. He has no idea this is a girl from the fire. Let's make that clear. He has absolutely no clue. He has not seen her in 15 years, and like he has no idea who she is. But he has this immediate claim to her, and he figures out she's his mate, and they're separated from that point, and then they get to come back together, and they eventually figure out who each other are, and it's really cute. So apparently, like, when shifters meet their mates before they're of the age to like claim them, so if they're children or like not 18 or whatever, like both parties will end up becoming celibate and like not being able to like mate anyone else or have sex with anyone else because their mates, they've already met their mates. They just cannot claim them as each other. So really cute. And I really liked that aspect. I liked how, like there was nothing weird there. He had no idea that's who she was, but it just happened to work out that way. I thought it was really interesting. I thought it was a really cool concept. And it was done pretty well and not weird at all. So yeah, I gave this one a 4-star and I really liked it. So those are all the books that I've read so far in April. I'm hoping to speed up this process for the last half of the month because I really need to get some manga read. So if you want to read any of these books, all of them are linked down in the description, as well as all my social media. If you are still here, leave me a sushi emoji because all I can think about right now is sushi for some reason. Don't know. But yeah, go ahead and leave that down in the comments and I'll chat with y'all in my next video. Bye everyone.